Yo, what up?
你要见还是我？
Yo, what up?
你要见还是我？
It's Razor Pop lah.
Hey folks, welcome to Razor Pop. Today we're discussing the topic of Hollywood remakes of Asian horror movies. Now the list of such movies is long and seemingly endless. The Ring, The Grudge, Dark Waters, Pulse, or Cairo as it's called, Shutter, The Eye, One Missed Call, Mirrors, and the most recently released title, The Uninvited, a remake of the Korean hit A Tale of Two Sisters. Coming up soon, The Grudge 3, Infection, Death Note, Resurrection, and Battle Royale. Now with me today are two terrific and very opinionated movie critics, Jason Johnson of The New Paper and Tae Yek Kiek of My Paper. Now guys, why are there so many remakes of such films? I mean, some of us thought that it was just a phase that would last for a few years, but it seems like a relentless march.
Oh, well, I think that it's money. It's all money. It's box office gross. These movies were very successful. Then there's one guy called, I think his name is Roy Lee. Is it? Yeah, you know.
He is a Korean
producer.
producer.
He is an enterprising person who brought in a lot of these Asian horror films, got into contact with Hollywood studios and producers, and that was how it all began. With all, he put them together.
Mm-hmm. But my question is, why? I mean, why the popularity of such films? Why can't America create their own horror films? Considering that they're so creative, Hollywood is a hotbed of talent, and they can make such good TV shows like Lost and 24 and West Wing and so on and so forth. Why can't they make their own horror films?
Well,
I think that the Asian horror boom was they created more or less a new genre. The Asian horror started off as the J-horror genre, and it was something completely different from what anybody had seen before. I think in the past Hollywood had made horror movies, especially films like Friday the 13th and that sort of thing, that were silly and campy and gory and over the top and sort of good fun. Whereas I think with the Asian horror movies, they seem to be setting out to actually do psychological damage. They took it very seriously, and there was this air of mystery about them, and they didn't sort of explain things. You just sort of get wrapped up in this web of evil, and there's no escape. And I think it was something that people hadn't seen before. It hadn't sprung up out of Hollywood, so you more or less had to sort of import it. And they more or less got a new genre out of it, or a new subgenre out of it, this sort of Asian horror genre.
Jace is right. And also don't forget that Hollywood didn't stop making their own kind of horror films. You know, they were still making a Friday the 13th Texas Chainsaw Massacre and remaking their, what was it, Prom Night and Halloween. So they didn't stop.
They didn't stop, but they just added something new, a new element, and like Kek says, a new money-making sort of a machine. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you're Canadian.
Yes.
And you're the closest I can find to somebody.
I will speak for all North America. Maybe not the Mexicans, but them too. All of North America, I'm good.
What is the difference between, the horror that America makes and the horror that Asians make?
I think... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you look at the tradition of American horror, I think a lot of it stemmed out of the 50s B movies where it was the Blob and silly monsters and this kind of stuff. And I think they never got over the sort of love of silly monsters. Like Halloween, Friday the 13th, they were all sort of just silly monster movies, but with monsters that meant a lot more business than, say, the Blob did. I mean, they were nasty. But it always had this air of campiness about it. And it was... I think people would laugh at these films as much as they would be scared of these films.
Okay.
So I think that was sort of the American tradition of horror. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was pretty hardcore and quite different. But I found that these Asian horror movies, they took a much more psychological approach, and they tried to really get under your skin. And they really... There was no jokiness about them. They were seriously just trying to mess you up. You know?
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to add to a point because I heard an interview by Nakada was the
Hideo Nakata.
the Ring director who spoke very good English, and he said in Asian horror, at least, or in Japanese horror, things came out, frightening came out of the most ordinary of things, which is a very different viewpoint from the Americans.
Okay, but when you talk about like campiness, I don't find that in some of the biggest hits, horror hits in US box office, like Poltergeist, The Exorcist, The Omen. Those take their scares very seriously.
I don't think The Exorcist is really... It stands apart as a work of art, I think. I don't think I would put that in the context of being part of the American horror sort of genre. It's,
really?
To me, it's a literary piece. It stands apart. It's a one-of-a-kind thing. I think they tried to duplicate that in the 70s with like Rosemary's Baby, and they tried to duplicate that, but nobody came close to doing what The Exorcist did. It had a very serious tone, and it had almost that.
But since there was such a deep appreciation for something like The Exorcist, why didn't that trend continue?
Because it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard to make a movie that good.
It's true. Also, I think a lot of these movies, like the what you call the psychological horror, TV horror, TV ghost horror, Poltergeist, and all that, they're almost European in look. And the Exorcist, you know, they have these Rosemary Baby, but the average horror fan in America are all your teens and all your young guys and all that, and they like a lot of slasher films. Slasher movies make a lot of gore, make a lot of money over there. You know?
Do you see? I mean, there was, like, in the past few years, a resurgence of these kind of really intense, gory films like Hostel.
The torture porn.
Saw, the torture porn.
Yeah.
But that seems to have receded a little bit. Has there been a backlash?
I think that people can only take so much of that. And I will avoid it, given any excuse. Even if I have to review it, I'll try to find a way.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean, I don't want to see... I mean, Turistas was bad enough for me. I don't want to be seeing a Hostel and all these kinds of movies. To me, it's too much already. Okay. Do you know what I mean? I like a good horror movie, but to me, those went too far. And I think probably a lot of people, most mainstream people would agree that something like Hostel, it's just too much.
Okay.
I think horror fans will love it. People who really like the gore and stuff like that. But you're going to lose... Your main audience, I think, quite quickly.
Okay, I feel the same way, actually.
Yeah.
Now, we're going for a break, but when we come back, we're going to discuss what is lost in translation.
Sure.
Larry Daly is back.
Folks, we're giving out 30 peso tickets to Night at the Museum 2. The preview is taking place on the 20th of May at 7:15 p.m. at Vivo City. You can win a pair just by emailing the answer to this question. Who plays Amelia Earhart in Night at the Museum 2? Is it A. Amy Adams, B. Meryl Streep, or C. Faye Wong? Send your answer to razortv at sph.com.sg before 18th of May.
This place is lame.
Yo, what up? It's Razor Pop Lab.